Welcome to the Language Link Interpreter Telephone Controls video tutorial. In this video, we will be demonstrating how to use the telephonic controls for making third-party dial-outs, disconnecting dial-outs, manually entering a phone number, and transferring a call to an agent if necessary. When making third-party calls for our clients, it is important to make sure our session is still active within the interpreter portal. This can be done at any time by hitting the F5 key on your keyboard. If your session has expired, simply log in and navigate to the telephonic login site. Language Link will give clients the opportunity to enter a third-party telephone number during intake before an interpreter is acquired. This will save time and allow the client to enter and confirm the phone number. And the phone number will be displayed in the portal to dial after gathering information about the third party. If the client entered a phone number during IVR intake and you have answered the call from your Skype client, you will notice a phone number will populate in the third-party number field. If the client did not enter a telephone number or does not require a third-party call, the field will remain empty or grayed out. Upon receiving the call, we can see a job ID, and we can see the language that the client selected in the IVR. We also see the telephone number that the client input in IVR intake. Next, let's expand the third-party call instructions. And in here we can see how to greet the client and collect information about the third-party call. Hello, this is your Spanish interpreter ID 5112. Will this call require a dial out to 360-839-2657? What is the name of the person we are dialing today? Okay, Juan Garcia. Great. Would you like to leave a message if the call goes to voicemail? Okay, so this is Susan from the auto repair shop. His vehicle is ready for pickup and to call us if he has any questions. Great. Any other information before proceeding with the dial out? No? Okay. To begin the dial out, press the green dial button. You will hear dialing third-party announcement, and you will see a dialing status. Once the call is connected, you will hear a connected announcement, and you can begin greeting the third party. To disconnect a call, simply press the red hang-up button, and you will hear an announcement, third party disconnected. The status indicator will show a disconnected status. In some cases, our clients will require us to dial into a conference bridge or other location in which we will have to input more digits than the phone number. After the client supplies you with the digits you will need to enter for either the conference number or any other further directions, you can simply dial the number and wait for the connection to the conference. You will see the connected indicator here. At this point, I'm going to open up my Skype client and I'm going to navigate to the dial pad window. From here, I can enter in the keys as instructed from the client. The conference code is 85694, 85694. You may experience multiple different scenarios when placing dial outs for the clients. For instance, call failures. Call failures will either play an announcement to the interpreter and the client, which will say, "Call failed to connect to third party," or, depending on the failure, the call will connect, but you will hear a message about the call failing, either from the provider or LanguageLink's carrier, indicating that the call has failed for whatever reason and may require you to manually disconnect the call upon hearing the call recording. As mentioned earlier, phone numbers can be manually entered any time during the call if the client makes the request, but only one phone call can be made at a time. This may cause some confusion if a dial out is already in progress and has not been disconnected before the next dial out. If you press the green call button and do not hear dialing third party, and you see the processing status message displayed without any change, this could mean that the dial out is already in progress. Simply disconnect the last call that may still be active with the red disconnect button before beginning the next dial out. Here's an example. I did not hear dialing third party, and I see a processing status. Going to disconnect the call. I can hear a third party disconnected. And I'm going to try the call again. I can now see the dialing status, and the call is connected. Upon making third-party dial-outs, you may experience a few different failure conditions. In this condition example, the client has given us a phone number 360-555-1234, which we have repeated back to the client, and we will begin the dial. I heard dialing third party, and I can see that the call is dialing. Now I'm hearing that the call cannot be completed as dialed. The client will also hear this message as well. So at this point, we can hang up and verify the phone number with the client or try a different phone number. In this call failure example, we will input the phone number. Now this is obviously an invalid phone number. We will hit dial. We can see the dialing, and we immediately see the failed status. And we heard the announcement, "Call failed to connect to third party." Let's look at both of these examples again with the announcements the interpreter and the client would hear.
Dialing third party. You have dialed is not in service. Please check the number and try your call again. Thank you.
We heard the error that the number cannot be completed and try the call again. The client would also hear this announcement, and at that time we can just simply disconnect it. We hear the third party disconnected, indicating we're ready to try a different phone number. Here is the invalid phone number.
Dialing third party. Call failed to connect to third party.
Now here we see the call has failed. We don't have to disconnect because the call is already disconnected, and we can begin dialing a different phone number if the client has another phone number for us to use. Then we will hit dial.
Dialing third party.
Some dial-out scenarios will end with a third party not answering the telephone call. If we hit the dial button, begin the dial, We will not hear any ringing audio, but we will see the dialing status here. The audio again will be completely quiet until the call is answered. The call also cannot be disconnected while in a dialing status and will either need to be timed out, failed, or the third party will not answer before we can begin dialing a new number. We notice here now that the destination did not answer. So we can ask the client if they would like to try this number again or try a different number. Let's make this call scenario again, and we can hear the announcements this time that the interpreter and client will hear while making the dial out. We press the green dial button.
Dialing third party.
We hear the dialing third party announcement. We cannot disconnect the dial out while it's in progress.
The third party did not answer.
And we heard the third party did not answer announcement. And we see the no answer indicator. If a remote location is busy or unreachable, you may experience the following scenario when dialing.
Dialing third party.
The busy tone indicates that the destination failed, and you will also see the failed status. At this point, you can either try the call again or ask the client if they have a different number that they would like you to try. In this example, the client has given us a non-US domestic telephone number and asked us to dial. Once we dial this, we will hear an announcement followed by a call failure. We will go ahead and try the call now. We have started the dial out, and we heard the announcement, cannot complete non-domestic dial out, and we see the failed status. At this point, we need to ask the client if they require a dial out to this phone number. If they do, this destination will need to be dialed out by an agent. So we can let the caller know we're going to go ahead and transfer them to an agent. To do so, we'll click on the Transfer to Agent option. We will receive a pop-up. Are you sure you want to transfer this call? We'll notify the client we're transferring them now, and we'll say OK. You will notice you became disconnected from the call and placed back into the available status. The Transfer to Agent option can be used for different scenarios, and before transferring the client to an agent, the interpreter should always confirm with the client before making the transfer. The following conditions of a call may exist and require the client to be transferred back to the agent. The first one is the client accidentally selected the wrong language. If the client is asking for a different language, you can simply let the client know that you will be transferring back to an agent to obtain a different language interpreter. So we'll click the Transfer to Agent option. We'll let the client know that they're being transferred now, and we'll say OK. Let's review a couple important items we discussed earlier in the tutorial. Remember, silence will be heard during a dial out. You will still be able to communicate with the client, and the client will be able to hear you as well, and you will both be able to hear the dial out announcements. But you will not hear any ringing indicator while the call is being dialed. In some rare cases, clients will ask you or give you a telephone number that's outside the U.S. domestic boundary. And in this case, let the client know that you are unable to make this type of call and if they need this call to take place, you can transfer them to an agent. The telephone controls button can only send one individual dial out at a time. If the dial button is pressed multiple times, the phone system will reject the request until the call is hung up or remotely disconnected. This concludes our video tutorial for the Interpreter Telephone Controls portal.